Well, thank you. It's fantastic to be here, and what a great welcome to LIVEXchange. I just want to welcome and say good day to my LNP colleagues who I think are in the room, your local member for Herbert, Phil Thompson, and the fabulous Senator Susie McDonald. What a champion for agriculture and for Queensland Susie is. You're going to be very well served by her. I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners here and pay my respects to their elders past and present. And a big thank you to ALIC and LiveCorp, especially Mark Harvey Sutton and Sam Brown and their teams for putting on such a great event. Thanks also to QLEA for hosting this conference here in beautiful Townsville. I wish I could stay overnight in the heart of North Queensland cattle country. And I'd also like to congratulate Troy Setter on the outcome of today, and also David Galvin, as they both take on respective roles over time. And Simon, it's great always to see you, and I look forward to working with you as you continue in the short term. Former Chair, Terry Enright, great to see you. Estimates was okay last week. We all survived, and thank you for your service to the industry. Well, Australia's been exporting animals for a very long time. In the early 1800s, we sent horses to New Zealand, and now as the spring racing carnival starts, unfortunately, they're sending some very good ones back. A little later in the century, cattle stations developed in the north of Australia for cattle exports, and sheep exports soon followed. And now we export goats, donkeys, buffaloes, you name it, we do it, and not just on boats. The industry has grown and evolved and adopted technological advances over 2 centuries of international trade. Oh, sorry, the lighting's sort of over my shoulder, I can't quite see. But live animal export is now a high-tech, sophisticated industry worth over $2 billion to the Australian economy and generates over 10,000 jobs right across the country. It's an important industry for Australia, especially for those in rural and regional areas in the north and the west of Australia. It's also an industry made up of incredibly resilient people who've weathered some difficult times, thinking of drought and the present time, and animal welfare concerns. We can't control drought, but we can talk up our world-leading animal welfare credentials and bridge the divide that currently exists between urban Australians and those of us that live out in the regions and understand the industry that you're involved in. I have every confidence of your industry's ability to better tell its story and to demonstrate to the community that animal welfare is at the heart of all you do. The key to the success of your industry in the 21st century is to operate with high animal welfare standards and communicate that. Communicate what you're already doing to the broader communities of just how your industry can be sustainable and ethically sound. And the great news is that we're not just exporting our fabulous livestock to the world, we're exporting our animal welfare standards too. We're leading the world in doing the right thing, and that's something that will provide us with a market advantage over time. As an industry, you've shown a willingness to challenge yourselves, to do more, and to do things better. The theme of welfare beyond borders is a timely one, and I congratulate you for making that the focus of your conference here. Of the 130 live animal export nations, ours has the highest standard of animal welfare. Now, you won't read that on Animals Australia Facebook page, will you? But that is a fact. And it's a fact that we need to get out there, not just keep that fabulous stat to ourselves. We really need to inform the broader public and Australian society of our standing globally, and it's something we should all be very, very proud of. We can improve animal welfare standards even further, but let's use science and not emotional rhetoric when we get that job done. And that's why our government's introduction of an independent Inspector General of live animal exports is also an important initiative. That role, which I'll have more to say on in a couple of weeks, will provide an additional layer of assurance that the regulator, my department, and it's great to have so many of them here with you over these couple of days, out and about, on the ships, in forums. Also having my secretary Darryl, I think I saw him in Sydney this morning, he's arriving with you tomorrow and he'll be at the gala dinner, so please bend his ear and his arm. But they are the regulator, but the inspector will be working effectively to assure us all that the systems that manage livestock exports are effective and fit for purpose. I want to acknowledge, as a scientist and one of the few with a degree in science in Parliament, that your fierce reliance on science and research when looking to improve animal welfare outcomes is essential and must not be deviated from. The recent LiveCorp dehumidification equipment trial delivered promising results. LiveCorp used the $2.2 million government grant to look at what can be done to reduce heat stress. And it won't be any silver bullet, but it's a practical step in the right direction. Your willingness to undertake this type of work and to secure funds so that you can deliver it really bodes well for the future. The Department of Agriculture has also conducted some analysis of its own. Ahead of the 2019 Northern Summer Prohibition, there were 3 May voyages. As you all know, extra conditions applied to help manage the heat stress, changes to stocking density and the like, all based on science. The sheep mortality rates for these voyages averaged at 0.1%. And importantly, of the mortalities that occurred, none of them were linked to high temperatures. The average mortality rate for May voyages from 2013 to 2017 was 0.71%, a 0.5% higher. So the extra conditions applied were based on robust science, and all the evidence is that they supported improved animal welfare outcomes. In October this year, I announced that the Department was no longer requiring independent observers of low-risk short-haul voyages, cutting unnecessary red tape. And one of the first things I was able to do as Agriculture Minister post-election was to head to WA and to meet with live exporters there, where I got some pretty full and frank feedback, and I had some messages of my own too. And I think it's important that when things make sense and when we've got the evidence to back it up, that we do the right thing and make it easier for people to trade and export. So we've moved to a risk-based approach to deploying our independent observers. Independent observers have provided useful insights into practices on more than 150 voyages, and my department now has a deeper understanding about when the deployment of an independent observer is most helpful. Voyages from Northern Australia to Southeast Asia present, obviously, a lower risk due to their shorter duration and because the cattle are already well acclimatised to the environment. The department is now conducting a regulation impact statement to inform a decision regarding the future regulation of the industry from 2020 onwards of sheep export to the Middle East. We've released a suite of policy options in the form of a discussion paper in September, and we're now currently seeking feedback from stakeholders on the potential impacts. This will end on November the 4th, so please have your say, get involved, find the research to back up your argument so that we can have the very, very best information on which so the department can make that decision. The positive stories of your industry need to be told by you, and they need to be heard, not just by people in this room, not just by the National Party, not just by rural and regional Australians, but in the main street, in Oxford Street in Sydney, in Burke Street in Melbourne, where we are at war at the moment, and not just your industry. We have people in this country growing quickly by the minute who want to shut down the production of livestock, full stop. That's the end game for them. So we need to be clear in our purpose and intent and crystal clear in how we communicate the positive impact and the positive role that you and your industry play. And I commend those in the room who are already working very, very hard to promote the good work of how you care for exported livestock. And the Sheep Collective is all about doing that. What a fantastic initiative. It's just a great way to communicate. And the new Cattle Collective, who I'm happy to announce will launch today at this conference, will make it possible to have new, exciting conversations and opportunities of engagement with people who have no idea what you do, who've never been on a farm, but who are very quick to try and stop you doing what you're doing. And having that communication is going to be incredibly important. The Cattle Collective will be welcoming journalists and observers into the supply chain, onto boats and into stockyards. There, the media and the community in turn can see firsthand the good work the industry does. This is the sort of myth-busting and transparency needed for the community to understand the cattle industry and the lengths you go to ensure that stock are treated with care. So well done to Holly Ludeman and John Cunnington for all the work you've put into this initiative. Underlining the value of your industry and what it provides to families around the world in providing safe, nutritious, high-quality protein is key. It's unfortunate but true that a growing number of people living in our cities have never been on a farm, and explaining to them just how Aussie exporters have been raising the bar internationally when it comes to animal welfare outcomes is critically important to building understanding and trust. The Cattle Collective launched today will be a key pillar in having that conversation with the broader Australian public. So again, I want to thank you for making the focus of your, they're very insistent, you better get that, might be important. But thank you for making the focus of your conference animal welfare and for ensuring each and every day that you do the very best to achieve great animal welfare outcomes and a profitable and sustainable industry. My job as your minister is to actually go out and get you some more markets so that we don't just rest on our laurels, so we can take those world-class, world-leaning animal welfare standards to the world, as well as some fabulous homegrown Australian protein. And I'm looking forward to doing that with you for the next 3 years, hopefully longer, but definitely for the next 3 years. So I hope you enjoy the conference. It's always great when you're an industry that's spread right across this vast nation to have an opportunity in your working year to come together and share and socialise and learn. So I hope it's been a great conference. You've got a great leadership team in both organisations, and I look forward to ensuring we've got a sustainable, profitable industry well into the future. Thank you. No, I'm supposed to.
The Cattle Collective is really important to tell the untold stories of a really important industry, which starts here with producers, truck drivers, feed suppliers, quarantine facilities, stock people that work on the vessels, all the way to our importing markets that really value the food security and food supply we can provide them.
So we're creating the Cattle Collective as a platform for people to tell their stories. People in agriculture, and especially the cattle industry, are really passionate about what they do, and it forms their identities. So we want to let them tell about each element of the supply chain to tell the community and inform them about why they are part of this industry.
We've got the Sheep Collective, the Cattle Collective, and so a collective of interested people that have the best interests of the industry at heart. It's going to produce and drive better outcomes all round. We're going to be looking at what goes on and how we can improve, and encouraging young people to be part of an industry that has old people like myself in it. It's got to change. So with that change comes outcomes that are improved.
Australians care about their animals. They care passionately about their animals. So if people give them the wrong spiel or inaccuracies, they're going to go with it. It must be accurate. And if the Cattle Collective can get that out there, this is what's got to be put out there for these people to see.
I think it's very important what you're doing just to educate people the truth about the live export game rather than the nonsense that we've been seeing through the general media. I mean, everyone in the actual live export game knows that the footage that the general public has been seeing, it's not the real story. So it's really good that someone is trying to show the real story.